Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Batra, page 98a, top of the page, with the word mivusam, ani mocher lach. Oh, you know what? We were in the middle of the Mishnah, and as I mentioned last time, I would start the Mishnah again. So at the bottom of 97b starts the new Mishnah, the very last line there, hamocher yain l'chaveiro. This is the new Mishnah, the bottom of the Amud, 97b. Hamocher yain l'chaveiroi. If one sells wine to another and then it sours, v'hichmitz, eino chayav b'achayusoi. The seller does not bear financial responsibility for its loss. V'im yodua sheyeino machmitz, harei ze mekach torus. But if it is known of this seller that the wine always sours, then this sale is a mistaken transaction. In other words, one based upon false assumptions, as the buyer intended to purchase wine that would maintain its quality. Therefore, the seller must reimburse the buyer. And if the seller said to the buyer, "V'im amar lo yain," okay. And now we're on the top of 98a. Mivusam ani mochela, that it is spiced, which is preserved and of lasting quality, that I'm selling to you. Chayav lahamilo ad hatzeres. He bears the financial responsibility to provide him with wine that will keep until the festival of Shavuot. And if the seller said, but like what if he sold it to him on 3 days before Shavuot? I mean, you know what I mean? V'yashen mishel ishtaked umiyushan mishel shloshanim. Okay. If the seller said, "I'm selling you old wine," he's responsible to provide wine from the previous year. And if he said, "I'm selling you aged wine," he is responsible to provide wine that is from 3 years earlier. Okay. Okay, now the Talmud. Talmud starts kicking in right now. Amar Rav Yossi bar Chanino lo yishanu ela bin kankanim delokach, aval bin kankanim demoicher omolei ham chamrach veho kankanach. Rav Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, says, when they taught that the seller does not bear responsibility if the wine sours, that was only if it soured while in the jugs of the buyer. But if it soured in the jugs of the seller, the buyer could say to him, "This is your wine and this is your jug. Take it and reimburse me." Since it soured while it is still in the original jugs, it was clearly flawed from the outset. But if the Gemara asks, but even if the wine soured while in the jugs of the seller, what of it? Let the seller say to the buyer, "You should not have left it for so long after purchasing it. I should not be responsible just because you chose to do so." The Gemara answers, no, this ruling is necessary in a case where the buyer had said to him that he was purchasing the wine for cooking, in which case it is understood that he needs it to maintain its quality over a longer period of time, as only a small amount is used each time. Umay duchke that Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina look me lovas nisen bekankan in the lokeach. Bedamar le mikba look ma bekankan in the mocher vidala omar le mikba. The Gemara asks, and what impelled Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, to interpret the Mishnah as referring to a case where the wine soured while in the jugs of the buyer, and where he had said to him that he wanted the wine for cooking? Instead, let him interpret it as referring to a case where the wine soured in the jugs of the seller, and to where he had not said to him that he wanted wine for cooking. Amar Rava said, "Matnit in kashit elektani. Im yodu machmitz harei ze mekach taus. Amai lemalei lo mibayalach leasher hoye In explanation, Rava said, the Mishnah was difficult for him as it teaches in the following clause. But if it is known of the seller that his wine always sours, then the sale is a mistaken transaction. With regard to this clause, one could ask, why is this so? Let the seller say to him, you should not have left it for so long after purchasing it. Rather, isn't it correct to conclude from that clause that the Mishnah is referring to a case where the buyer had said to him that he wants the wine for cooking? The Gemara concludes, yes, one can conclude from it that it is so, that this is so. And Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, disagrees with the opinion of Rabbi Chia bar Yosef. As Rabbi Chia bar Yosef says, with regard to wine, it is the owner's poor fortune that causes the wine to go sour, as it is stated. And moreover, wine is a treacherous dealer. The haughty man abides not. Habakkuk 2:5, which is interpreted to mean that the wine of a haughty man will betray him, as it will sour as a punishment for his arrogance. Accordingly, since the wine soured after the buyer purchased it, he cannot place the blame upon the seller. Amarav Mori, Hai man diahir. Afilu in shibei lo makabal shenemar gever yel velo yel nave. My lo yinave lo. What's the word there? Lo yinve. Banave shelo. The Gemara offers additional homiletic interpretations of the verse recited. Rav Mari said, one who is haughty is not accepted, even by the members of his household. As it is stated, the haughty man abides not. Habakkuk 2:5. What does the phrase abides not mean? It means that even in his abode, he is not accepted. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Kol HaMizkoi V'Talis Shel Talmid Chacham Ve'eino Talmid Chacham Ein Machnisin Oisai B'Mechtzosai Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu K'siv Hacha V'Lo Yinveh K'siv Hosam El Neveh Kodshecho. Rav Yehuda says, the Rav says, with regard to anyone who glorifies himself by wearing a garment of the style worn by a Torah scholar, but in reality he is not a Torah scholar, he will not be brought within the boundary of the Holy One. Blessed be he in the world to come. This is alluded to by the fact that it is written in the verse here, abides not, lo yinveh, and the meaning of the word yinveh may be derived from that which is written in the verse there, your holy habitation. El Neveh Kodshecha, Exodus 15:13. Amar Rava, Amar Rava, Haiman de Zabinle, Chavito de Chamra lechan vo'o, Hadaiti lesaboye, Uteke rapalga, O atilta, Dina hon megavale mine, Velo amaran eladlo, Shani bebarzo, Avar Shani bebarzo lo. ולא אמרן, אלא דלא ממטה יומא דשוקה. אבל מטה יום דשוקה לא. Rava says, in the case of one who sells a barrel of wine to a shopkeeper, with the understanding that the wine will be for serving to the shopkeeper's customers, that he will be liable to pay the seller only once the barrel is finished, and the wine spoiled when 1/2 or 1/3 of the wine still remain. The halacha is that the seller must accept back the remaining wine from the shopkeeper, as the shopkeeper is liable to pay only for the wine that he sells. And we stated this halacha only in a case where the shopkeeper had not switched the tap of the barrel. But if he has switched the tap, the seller does not have to take the wine back, and the shopkeeper must pay for it all. And furthermore, we stated this halacha only where the wine soured before the market day arrived, and the shopkeeper did not have the opportunity to sell the entire barrel. But if the wine was still of good quality when the market day arrived, then the seller does not have to take the wine back. de vol shafat ועד מטה התמזל dinahu dimakabil. And Rav says, in the case of a vintner who enters a business venture with another person who will sell the wine for him, and afterward they will split the profits, then if this middleman who receives the wine to sell does so with the understanding that he will bring it to the part of the city of Vol Shafat and sell it only there, and before he arrives there the price of wine drops, the halacha is that the vintner must accept the loss. Amar le Rav Hillel Ravashi ki avan be Rav Kahana Amar lan Chala lo Udilak Rav Yossi Bar Chanina. With regard to the previous case, a dilemma was raised before the sages. If the wine becomes vinegar before he reaches Vol Shafat, what is the halacha? Rav Hillel said to Ravashi, when we were in the study hall of Rav Kahana, he said to us, if the wine becomes vinegar, the vintner does not have to accept the loss. And this is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Hanina, who holds that as long as the wine is in the jug of the seller, he is able to return the seller. The reason for this is that it is possible that the poor fortune of the middleman caused it to sour. And there are those who say that even if the wine turns into vinegar, there are those who say that even if the wine turns to vinegar, the vintner must also accept the loss. In accordance with whose opinion is this? It is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Hanina. Yashan Mishalash Taked. The Mishnah teaches, if the seller said, I am selling you old wine, he is responsible to provide wine from the previous year. And if he said, I'm selling you aged wine, he is responsible to provide wine that is from 3 years earlier.